Is it the end of Meghan Markle's Hollywood dreams as her and Prince Harry flame out of Hollywood? The Netflix deal is dead, and their future prospects are honestly looking quite grim. While they may have a first look deal with Netflix coming in the future, it doesn't mean anything. Like Netflix could have first look and pass every single time. The couple is up a creek without a paddle. And what does this mean? And what does this mean regarding the alleged secret peace summit that happened earlier this month in London? Is the panic really truly setting in for Harry and Meghan as probably one of their biggest revenue streams is gone overnight? We are going to explore all of this, what it means for Meghan Markle's brand as ever, her upcoming season of With Love, Prince Harry, the secret meeting, future with the royals, all these sorts of things. There's so much to explore here that we didn't get a chance to explore in my previous video on the death of the Netflix deal. So we are going to get into all this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary. So please hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And we do only have about 2 weeks, guys, until our South of France trip closes. It closes on August 6th. So we have a group of 16 going. We have 4 spots left. So if you guys are interested at all, feel free to check it out. We're going to Nice, Monaco, and Provence. The Monaco trip is extra, so just keep that in mind. But this is going to be so incredibly exciting. We have a great group coming together, and we would love to have you join us if you are interested. So feel free to check that out. I've done several of these trips. I have people who go almost every single time. Like great friendships are made. It's a really, really awesome time to enjoy and find friends with other people who love to talk about the royals, because you may be interested in talking about this Harry and Meghan stuff, but you may have somebody in your family who's like, oh my gosh, could you please stop talking about it? Or maybe your friendship group. But you will find a bunch of people on these trips that are also interested in the disaster that is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So if you're interested, again, there'll be a link up above, and we would love to have you join us, and a link down below too. And we also have a little bit here called the Crown Report, and we have some news from Spain. So recently it was the Princess of Girona Awards happening there in Barcelona. So the entire royal family headed out for that particular event. So this is King Felipe, Queen Letizia, Princess Leonor, and her younger sister Infanta Sofia. So Infanta is kind of like a lady title in Spain, in case you are interested. So it denotes that Princess Leonor, the Princess of Asturias, is the future heir to the throne, and Infanta Sofia is her younger sister. And they also did a visit to the Nando and Elsa Peretti Foundation there in Sant Marivel. And so this is, again, in Girona. It's probably part of Princess Leonor's title. She actually has quite a long title as the future queen of Spain. So it's great to see the Spanish out and about, although they're out and about quite a bit. I would say probably the hardest working royal family is the Spanish. And this comes from the fact that they almost lost their throne. King Juan Carlos, who was very popular, was mired in a series of very, very bad scandals. It really rocked the Spanish royal household. Juan Carlos had to abdicate in favor of his son Felipe. So I feel like Queen Letizia and King Felipe, they approach every event, and this includes their daughters as well, as if this is the last royal event they do. Like they're doing it every single time just to make sure that it continues. So I always find that to be super, super impressive. And we also have information on Infanta Sofia and her plans for college. She plans to go to Forward University, where classes are taught in Lisbon, Paris, and Berlin over 3 years, with the students spending 1 year in each country. The degrees are then awarded through the University of London. So I find that to be really interesting. Obviously, Princess Leonor is going through the various military academies there in Spain because she will be future head of the Spanish armed forces. And so Infanta Sofia has a little bit more flexibility, and she's definitely looking forward to, I guess, an interesting itinerary as a student. So I find that really fascinating, and wishing her all the best in her future endeavors. Of course, the future is as looking really, 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 really uncertain right now is for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And the loss of the Netflix deal, I think, is something that so many people, myself included, were like, this has to happen. There's just no way Netflix can continue with this deal. It's just financially untenable. It's not even what Hollywood studios are doing anymore. And it seems like sanity has finally won a bit, because The true, you could say, horrible thing Harry and Meghan have done over the last couple of years, if they wanted to be multimillionaire billionaires, is prove that they have talent in something. That is what they've been able to do this entire time, is prove that they can be in Hollywood, that they can create good content in Hollywood, that their content sells and goes on, and that they can franchise and do all these things that really successful people do. Harry and Meghan have failed on every single level. Every single level, the two of them have failed, flopped out of everything. Neither one of them have proven they are a particular talent in anything they're attempting to do right now. And that reality was always going to hit them on the butt. The royal titles they have can only get them so far, and they've been coasting on that ever since they left the royal family. And yeah, that's why you got Netflix, it's why you got Spotify. However, that did not keep those agreements. You lost Spotify, you lost Netflix now. Now, Netflix, interesting beast, you could say. And I did a whole video yesterday sort of trying to lay out the groundwork of my conclusion that Netflix does not give two craps about As Ever. And I feel like this cancellation officially proves that. They don't care. They gave Meghan Markle a little bit of seed money, and if it was successful, great. If it wasn't successful, I'm sure that's actually what they were betting on. And they've really actually sort of screwed her over here because announcing basically, now we have reports and sources, but Harry and Meghan's team have not denied this in the slightest, and neither has Netflix. And although I'm still waiting to see what the trades say, so this would be Variety, Deadline, and The Hollywood Reporter. None of them have reported on this particular story yet. I imagine that we haven't had a retraction, that we haven't had changes, that People Magazine is going with this story. Again, just proves its veracity. It's true. The deal is done. The couple are officially out of sorts. And for Meghan's second season of With Love Meghan, it officially kills any momentum this thing had. And now I don't even think it had much at all. But basically saying that publicly, and not in so many words, that, hey, this is the last thing. We're not doing anymore. We don't care. It just means that I think there'll be even less people tuning in for this season because they're like, well, Netflix doesn't believe in it. Why should I even try? And you can see since probably maybe Heart of Invictus, Netflix has sort of tuned out of the Harry and Meghan thing. Now, we have Ted Sandros who bloviates about the relationship with Harry and Meghan sometimes and the importance of it. It's just Hollywood speak, just trying to make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's, and just make sure in case something turns that you haven't said, well, they're really crappy at what they're doing. They're terrible to work with. They have no new ideas. They can't do anything. So we're just going to leave it. They can't totally say that. Netflix wants to try to salvage this. And I think the last sort of effort and gasp was with Love Meghan. That was sort of the last gasp, and just to get something else out of them. So, what I see for the future here in terms of just Netflix overall is that Netflix saw With Love Meghan, knew it was crappy, but they didn't have anything else. So they just went with it. They expanded it to 2 seasons, again, just so that they could get more of their pound of flesh, and they're done. If Netflix truly believed in With Love Meghan, her products from As Ever would be on their website. They would have helped her immensely with all these various product launches, with the engagement strategy, marketing strategy, branding strategy, all those sorts of things. Netflix, they have people who are, I'm sure, are brilliant at that. That we don't see any of this screams to me that Netflix does not care. With Love Meghan was just the last gasp of a dying deal. And they got it through the finish line, but they never cared about it enough in the first place. I truly believe Netflix did not care. And the numbers back up the fact that despite all the promotion for it, it only got to 383. And according to Deadline, an article I saw was very, very low performing compared to other Netflix originals. So she flopped out. There's just no other way to put this. And any, let's say, momentum she had going into season 2 of The Curious is dead because they're like, I'm not going to do this series. Why do I care? It means nothing to me. It's like, I'm not getting anything from this. And they're not wrong. They're 100% not wrong here. There's nothing anybody's going to get from this show. It's dead. It's gone. And Meghan has nothing. She has nothing. She has nothing to sell her show. So, what does this mean for the future between Harry and Meghan in terms of Netflix? Because again, we've talked about the immediate. The show is going to continue to go forwards. And I know some people have asked, why isn't Netflix going to cancel it? No, again, it's already in the bag. They already have it. They can squeeze a little bit more out of her. So they're going to do it. That's just the thing. But it's much like when the Warner Brothers decided to announce for the DC extended universe or whatever that they were scrapping all the previous material and they were going with what James Gunn was going to create. It basically killed any momentum for any other movies that they were going to release because those movies meant nothing because the extended universe that DC was trying to build is being scrapped and rebuilt. But Netflix just said, this is it. This is it. We're not putting any more money behind Harry and Meghan. So, what does this mean for the first? Oh, and before we go on, I should say, when it comes to the alleged $100 million that Harry and Meghan were supposed to get from Netflix, now this is kind of expanded over 5 years. So, you could say each 5 years or each year, they got, you could say roughly $20 million. Now, there's a couple questions on how that was used. So, that was for production, for staff, and for Harry and Meghan. So let's say that Harry and Meghan productions took up half of that and Harry and Meghan took home 20 million. Now this is generous because I believe as well Netflix writes in bonus opportunities for content that does particularly well. Now this would include the Harry and Meghan thing, but not everything else. So again, let's just say they did get everything. I have no clue if they did or not. Let's just go with it. About maybe half of it went to all the other things, and then Harry and Meghan got to keep half of the money. So that puts them down to $50 million. Now, when you add taxes, you're probably talking 25 million, maybe 30 million if you're lucky. You got to pay a lot of taxes. They have an extremely expensive lifestyle. That's a lot of money to lose. And the way Netflix is framing the deal, or way we've heard it's going to be framed in the future, is what's called first look. And when I see first look deals, what they sort of mean is that there is a creator out there, and if they're working on a property, an idea, or whatever, they have an agreement with a particular studio to give them the first look at it. And the studio decides, yeah, let's do it. The studio may put in some money and help them put in, more of the production or whatever. And at some point, maybe it goes on the streaming platform, or maybe it gets scrapped halfway through. Harry and Meghan getting a first look deal instead. That does keep them in Netflix's orbit because I'm sure Netflix is waiting for the divorce, and sure they are, and they're wanting to capitalize off that. Or whenever Meghan Markle wants to try to tell her whiny story for the 50 millionth time. I mean, maybe we'll finally get a recreation of the glorious dish to the soap moment. I mean, golly, aren't we all salivating to see the recreation of Meghan Markle's brilliance when it comes to dish soap? Probably not. Anyway, so when it comes to this first look deal, number one, this means Harry and Meghan are getting an exceptionally smaller amount of money than they were before. Because Netflix now can say, hey, Live to Lead is not a $20 million idea. Let's just say that every project, because I think they've had about 5 projects. So let's mark them out. Harry and Meghan, Live to Lead, Heart of Invictus, Polo, and With Love, Meghan. So they've had 5 shows. And let's say each of them, you get $20 million for it. They can look at the Live to Lead, which was crap that nobody ever watched, and go, okay, so instead of giving you potentially 20 million for that, we're going to give you 200,000 instead, which was probably what that was worth. Netflix now has all the power in the relationship. Netflix has everything. They can even maybe get into a deal with Harry and Meghan for a project and kill it deliberately because they don't like it, it won't work, or whatever, or they don't want a competitor to have it because they have something else coming up, and so they kill Harry and Meghan's deal. This is not good for Harry and Meghan in terms of their finances. This is just not good. They're not getting a steady stream of income now. Everything is a case-by-case basis, which is what it should have always been. Netflix should have 100% capitalized off the Harry and Meghan leaving the royal family because they're a heartless corporation. That's what heartless corporations do. I understand why that was bad for the royal family, why Harry and Meghan shouldn't have done it. But from a business perspective, Netflix is not stupid. So that made sense. $20 million for that made sense. Maybe a $5 million bonus because it did so well, maybe 10. $100 million deal for these two doofuses is idiotic. It was exceptionally dumb. But everybody was doing that in Hollywood now. But everybody was doing that in Hollywood at the time. Like Ryan Murphy got a big deal, Shonda Rhimes, J.J. Abrams. I think the guys from Game of Thrones or something were promised things. But what's happened a lot too is that over time it's been proven that some people are just not really all that creative and not all as good as they were chalked up to be. And so there's been a lot of, I think, restructuring within Hollywood itself because they're realizing, hey, those Game of Thrones guys, when they had a deliberate plan, they were good. But when they were on their own, they were crappy. So everybody in Hollywood is sort of readjusting themselves. And so Harry and Meghan are caught up in this. But Harry and Meghan, much like actually a lot of the people who got these mega deals, failed to prove themselves at all. So I feel like when I hear first looks, and again, I'm kind of circling around a bit. First look basically means, yeah, we get the first look at it, but we can pass and we can give you so much less money for whatever you're trying to create. And it also means that Harry and Meghan are responsible for putting money into something. They don't get to rely on Netflix anymore. They're on their own. And as we've heard, these two doofuses are not good at this because with Love Meghan, as ever brand line, all of it was Netflix's idea. And they needed their pound of flesh and they got it. So the first look, I've heard some Sussex fans, and I feel like there's a lot of coke going on with this. But first look deal just goes to show that while Netflix wants to keep them somewhat in orbit, they have no desire to pay them anymore. Ryan Murphy, I think, is a good investment. He's had some massively huge shows for them. So has Shonda Rhimes. If you were going to re-up them, they'd probably actually still get less money just because of how the environment has changed and how there's somewhat less money to go around overall. Netflix might be in a better negotiating standpoint. Again, this is like all about negotiations and money, hard, fast figures. Royal titles don't matter here as much. Harry and Meghan have a proven track record of crap. So they're going to get crap figures now. That's just how this is going to run. They failed to show that they had any talent. I've watched pretty much everything they produced except for Live to Lead. None of it was particularly good. It was, and I found the same problem to be everywhere. Boring, bloated, and they always failed to find the good story. They could not create a good story. I felt like this, especially during the Invictus Games, where they focused on this guy who I felt like had more mental issues, like overall before combat. And so, like, some of his stuff I felt like didn't really matter because it's like this is his personal issues, not related to traumatic injuries in combat. Actually, the Ukrainian stuff was very interesting at points because you got your energy and it's like you felt the tension of the conflict and everything. But the best story for me was probably the guy from South Korea who had to, let's say, push against cultural stereotypes in his country about a disability of losing his hands in his instance. He had an explosive device go off and he lost his hands. I was like, to me, that's a story. They didn't focus on him at all, hardly. And I'm like, that's a story. That's the good, compelling story here. Like, how did you guys miss that? And then we also have with their polo series, I understand from a human perspective why they did this, but they had one of the people who was like a big guy in the polo community had a nasty fall from a horse, was like in a coma, very sick, and they like showed like some of the initial reactions of people running to the polo pitch, but oh no, for his privacy we didn't focus on that. That's your story. Why would you not focus on that? That's a story. His resilience and how he feels still passion to play polo. That's interesting. I didn't really like, I can't remember the guy. He was just a jerk. And he was kind of all over the place. Like he was actually compelling, like trash TV, but Harry and Meghan always try to be too earnest when they really should just kind of devolve into the trashiness of the premise. That's what they should do. So Harry and Meghan have had one success and basically a series of flops with one, you could say, mediocre success and with Love Meghan. Doesn't make any sense to continue the deal. I doubt Netflix will option its first look too much. And remember, Meet Me at the Lake is owned by Netflix. That option that Harry and Meghan got is owned by Netflix. And we have Meghan kind of deludedly saying, "Oh, what happened to rom-coms? I love rom-coms." In her interview with Variety, I was like, "Well, Meghan, or your rom-coms. And they could even do like stupid Hallmark level stuff. Now, not to say Hallmark is stupid. I know people love Hallmark, not my thing, but those kind of cheesy stories maybe is something Harry and Meghan could pull off. Like it's not Shakespeare, but at least it brings in you money. Those shows make money. Those movies, TV movies make money. Harry and Meghan are the antithesis to success and the antithesis to money in the bank. They are drains on the system. So now that we've had, Netflix is gone, With Love Megan is basically dead, As Ever is crippled in many ways because I don't think Netflix has any interest in it. And I want to, let's say, throw out this speculation that maybe why we're getting the scarcity tactic is Megan trying to cushion herself with the Netflix money because I'm sure some of the production money from Netflix went into the brand. So they didn't give the money to Harry and Meghan directly. It went into the As Ever brand. And Meghan is trying to cushion and maybe siphon some of that off into her and Harry's accounts because As Ever just did the scarcity tactic to keep more money rather than having it go out and not be successful, which is dumb because if you produce more products, you might make more money. Like, I feel like I'm explaining gravity to a chicken, but the two of them just don't seem to understand it. So that's just them. Anyways, so what does this mean for their future financial prospects? So we've already established First Looks is kind of a way, and I've seen this sort of used before, where it's a way to kick a creator out, but sort of give them a little bit of a, let's say, a gracious departure. So not making it seem like they letting them save their ego. That's kind of the way to do it. It's kind of a way to kick somebody out and let them save their ego a little bit. I feel like that's what Netflix has done with Harry and Meghan, if this is the route forward, which I imagine it is. But Netflix can say no, and they can also spend a lot less money on the couple. So the future here is not looking too bright for Harry and Meghan because now they've lost a pretty steady revenue stream. They had Meghan Markle's podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, which also flopped. And she was not getting a huge chunk of money from Lemonada to put it on. She just got a portion or a big cut of whatever money was generated from like the ad revenue and stuff like that. So that's dead. So that was inconsistent and that's probably pretty much gone at this point. Like they got an initial thing, but they're not getting continual. That was after the Spotify deal, which would have been steady money, which again, they lost $20 million. They probably got $5 million of it and lost. They got probably a good chunk of change from Spare. Spare could be as high as, 10 to $20 million that they got out of the book. But the residuals from that are going to keep going, but maybe they're not as good as they were initially. Netflix is now officially dead, so they don't have that coming in. So now their money is going to be based on their performance, which has not been particularly good. And As Ever, which has been crippled now by the basic, what Netflix is saying is basically we're canceling With Love Meg and we don't care about it. And so that leaves less people interested in the brand As Ever, which Meghan Markle has not established an identity for, is basically coasting off her royal title and her deluded fan base and like nothing else. There is nothing redeemable so far about that brand. So now we look at some interesting things that have happened around the same time. So number one is the Secret Summit in London. Now, I still don't think that they're going for like the purse strings of Charles in some ways. I feel like people think that Charles has so much money. He doesn't really, guys. A lot of royal money is tied up in physical assets, homes, artwork, furniture, property. That's what it's tied up in. It's not liquid cash as much as you might think. Now, there is some of that there, but the duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster, which fund the royal family, Charles has the Duchy of Lancaster, which is starting to make more money on par with the Duchy of Cornwall. Duchy of Cornwall was actually worth more for a period of time, but I think they're both paying out about the same. It's like 25 million pounds a year, which is a lot. But Charles has to split that among all his siblings and their families. And he has to somewhat fund, I'm sure, Prince Andrew. And he also has to run Balmoral and Sandringham in addition to Highgrove. Now, Highgrove probably pays for itself in a lot of ways, but Balmoral and Sandringham are huge properties. Massive amounts of cash are needed to upkeep those. He does not have like $20 million, $10 million, maybe even $2 million to throw around like he used to. Now, I will say when he was the Prince of Wales and in control of the Duchy of Cornwall, this was before the Queen's death, although I think this happened technically after the Queen's death. But Charles, I believe the one financial payout I think he ever gave to Harry and Meghan was to pay off Frogmore Cottage, what was owed for Frogmore Cottage, so Harry and Meghan could sort of get out of that thing. Because I don't think they had the cash on them to pony up 2 to 3 million pounds to kind of, because the government had paid for the upkeep and like the rehab of the house in the idea that Harry and Meghan would be working royals for the next 50 years. When you're looking at a 50-year timetable, you're willing to spend $2 to 3 million. But when they only stay about, not even 12 months after that, taxpayers are like, my money here went into this that you guys aren't planning to use. So the only money I think Charles ever gave them was for that home. The secret meetings, I think, were still to sort of reestablish ties. But why are they reestablishing ties? That's the critical thing. And that's because they knew this deal is dead. And they're desperately trying to figure out how to secure themselves after Netflix, which means that Harry and Meghan, I don't think have a good plan post Mexit or post Netflix. I think they're sort of dead in the water. They are looking at first look deals, but that means they actually have to work now. And Meghan Markle doesn't like work, and neither does Harry. And so they don't really have anything. They don't have anything. They could have had so many things. Guys, I'm like closing in probably, I mean, I think I'm a couple hundred away, but I have almost made 1,000 videos on here. I have probably over 100 on my other fashion channel, Royal Fashion News. I do that all myself. And that Harry and Meghan could barely create a couple of projects in the last few years is like really, really pathetic and annoying because they're given all this money and they do mediocre, crappy work or don't work at all. So, anyways, I think the deal was trying to figure out what this post Netflix life looks like because Harry and Meghan, and I think particularly Meghan, she's really deluded and Harry's very dumb. So, between the two of them, they really thought this Hollywood thing would work. And as it turns out, it hasn't. So they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. They didn't think of, hey, we're going to do this career. Do we have any talent in it? As it turns out, neither one of them do. So they screwed themselves. They 100% screwed themselves and they didn't work hard enough. And one of the things Meghan Markle has always shoved her money into is PR. And like she's finding out with Suits, PR only gets you so far. You have to put in the work. You have to have the talent. Otherwise, at some point, people aren't going to give two craps about telling us how charitable you are. Other people need to make money, Meghan Markle. That's how the world actually works. People need to make money. I don't think she gets that. Anyway, so that's what I think the peace talks were about. Might be for Harry finding a way back into the royal family, hoping to make a little bit more money. But he's not going to make that much money. Like, what can his father give him? $1 million or $2 million a year? Like, as a salary thing, part of that goes to staff. I mean, and those sorts of things. So it's like, it's not like it's liquid cash. And I still don't think Charles would do that anyways. There's no desire to see Harry return to the working fold. So it's kind of pointless. He's not going to get a ton of money out of his dad. The bank of dad only goes so far, especially in this royal world. And Charles has a lot of expenses now, more than he did as the Prince of Wales. And William, of course, would roll his eyes and laugh in his face if Harry ever came to him for money. But the thing is, Harry and Meghan have a ridiculously expensive house in a ridiculously expensive neighborhood. And they're not going to be able to sustain that forever without something like Netflix. They bought that house with the Netflix money. And they may be able to keep it for a while, but I would imagine at some point they may have to downsize because you can't keep that up forever. Of course, the danger here is that because of the Netflix loss, Meghan may trade more off the royal family. We'll probably see a Meghan memoir, mark my words, because that's the thing that's made them the most consistent money is probably the books. Meghan memoir, and of course, a divorce deal coming at some point. That's the only thing. That's all they got. That's all they have. They've yet to prove at all that they can create a good story, even in a documentary. And documentaries are based around trying to find the story. You still have to, in a documentary, flow through a narrative. You can't just, give the facts and stuff like that. And I don't see at this point, based on everything we have, that either of them can do it. So I think Harry's trying to figure out a way to weasel back into the royal family. I don't think it'll be successful, especially from his brother, because Harry, of course, is like, we don't have this Netflix deal anymore. I don't know what to do. I maybe get 100,000 to maybe $1 million a pop for speaking engagements, but that money might dry up. He's a pretty dim dude. At some point, people are not going to be interested in hearing from him anymore. And I don't think there's a particular interest in hearing from him now. He has not accomplished anything. He is not particularly eloquent, and he has yet to prove that he has something to say that's worth hearing. So because of all those things together, things are looking pretty dire. So what does this mean for their finances overall? It's going to get pretty grim here pretty quick. That house costs a lot of money to maintain. I'm sure in this well into the six figures per month with mortgage and everything. They pay for security, I'm sure in the six figures as well for them and their kids, maintenance, staff. Some article said recently, maybe it was the Vanity Fair one, talking about how they were technically downsizing in part because they were losing money. They had to downsize in part to save finances. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. And good for them for doing that. But they have taken the opportunity of a lifetime and spat all over it, left the royal family. And now they had this amazing opportunity and they could not get out of their own way enough. Recognize that they're not particularly talented in this area. I like how the guy on the recent marketing podcast, The Art of the Brand, said that Meghan is somebody who has never been told no and thinks she's the smartest person in the room. Meghan, this proves you're not that bright. You're not that good. You're not that talented. Maybe you have talents elsewhere, but it's not in Hollywood. And Hollywood is moving on. Hollywood is an industry that is in decline in many ways. You could almost say because of the lack of like new intellectual properties, new creative endeavors and stuff like that, we're remaking the same thing over and over and over again. Netflix even said, hey, the South Korean stuff is getting hugely popular. Netflix is importing other content from other countries that's doing better because it's better than what we're creating. That we're sort of losing our culture in some ways. It's an interesting argument to consider. And Harry and Meghan are a reflection of the fact that they got that deal not because of talent, not because they were able to craft a good story or that they were able to connect with people or anything like that. They got that money solely based on the royal titles. And what they have proven is all they have are royal titles. They could have had everything, but they didn't put in the hard work. They did not focus on things that they were individually talented in, and now they have nothing. I don't care what the Sussex Squad people say. This is failure. This is failure on multiple levels. If they were really successful and Netflix really, really wanted to keep them, they may renegotiate for a much lower rate. But first look deals, it's almost like they're just trying to let Harry and Meghan save some face. We'll probably never see anything else from Harry and Meghan on Netflix unless it's divorce related or royal family related. Because Harry and Meghan have proven they are one trick pony. They could have been so successful, but all they have ever done is trade off the royal titles. And that has limits. And Harry and Meghan are discovering that right now. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this Netflix collapse. I'd love to get your thoughts, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.